Today, bike on the bench happens to be a Norton Commando SS model. Stripped out quite a bit already, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Over there we have the engine for the Gold Star, which we've covered recently. That's going back together. And our project bike on the other side of the workshop. Done quite a bit more work to that. But outside, we've got an interesting bike, and it's now finished for the customer. 1935 BSA 500 Blue Star. And I think people have seen this bike before because it was part of the ARE collection, which was on the Isle of Man. So yeah, some things going on today. Right, this one. And this one's come from the Isle of Wight. Guy I've done some work for before, Gold Star work, and he said to me he picked up a Norton Commando. It's it's come back from the States. It could be what we call a NARM bike. A lot of these bikes back in the 70s were owned by guys that were fighting in Vietnam, and a lot of these bikes are left in sheds. This one is the SS model, which means it's a street scrambler, but it doesn't retain the high level pipes. Now, it came to me, it was complete, it was running, it had been worked on by someone, and some work had been done, and not too well. The reason we got it stripped out, isolastic, very worn, main stand very worn, that's the subframe, which the gearbox is built into and the engine sits on the back of. But the frame itself, it was missing the side stand lug, and I think I had to turn it up so Alex can see it. I'll turn it round. There's a big hole in the cross member of the frame. In this section here, there should be the main fitting for the side stand. That's missing, so we need to, well, it's on order now. We can get hold of this lug and we'll repair this and put it back in place. And then it's going to be blasted and painted. So in the box here is most of what has got to be sent off to the painters. People talk about the isolastic. Well, this is the rear isolastic mounting point here. And the front one is in a cradle on the front of the engine. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Underneath here. This one here. So you have that one, this one at the rear and this one at the front. So the whole subframe is independent from the rest of the frame. And if you look at the frame, it looks very, very lightweight. And you know, you can have either the 750 engine here or an 850. It works because the shock doesn't go through the frame. That is rubber mounted. So that's why it was able to make this frame lighter gauge steel and very lightweight. Interesting thing here, we got an Autumn electric start, which is a mod that the guy wanted fitted. It was fitted when the bike came to me, so we've had to strip it all out. So you'll see all that go back together, it'll be quite interesting. As I've mentioned just now, it should have the high level pipes, so we're going to put this back as a street scrambler. So the high level pipes with the high bars and the high mudguard on the front. It should look quite nice. Engine wise, we've got end float on the crank. We had a P11 here once before and the cam lobes are quite worn. We're going to check this through, take it apart. It's had some welding work done here on the crankcase, but we'll check the sludge trap and the crank, go through that, pull the gearbox apart, check everything in there, rebuild that. Forks are good, so although it looks a lot of work, it isn't too bad to do actually. So over on the other side, workshop, you can see the tank and the side panels. So we're going to keep this colour scheme. So this is a little tank that you would have with a street scrambler. So it's a pretty little tank, not very big. And the metal side panels as well. Mudguard, rear one we'll probably keep, but the front one we're going to put a high mudguard on. So that's what's going on with that job. So we got mixed engine here on the bench. This is the one where the matching crankcase halves weren't matching. So new cases, stamped properly, new crankshaft. All this work, this bottom end work, is done by Phil. Phil's helped me out yet again, Phil Pearson. So he's built the crank for it, new conrod, Wiseco piston, repaired the mag platform. He put the cases together. I've been building up, putting the pump in, timing gears. At the moment, you can see I've got the piston on here. I just push the gudgeon pin into the small end bush. No rings, because what we tend to always check is where the piston will come when we put the barrel on. I'm going to show you because sometimes the compression can vary. We're going to drop the compression on this one because the chap is slightly older and we want to make it so he can ride it. So what we do, just do that while I'm talking to you. Just drop that on. Just got to line up the studs that go through the head. Right, that's right down now. What we're looking for on the top of the stroke, so when the piston's at TDC, we want about 60 thou at least clearance between the crown of the piston and the top of the liner. This is okay, but sometimes I find sometimes we have the piston much too high, and what we can do, we've got different thickness gaskets or decompression plates to lower the compression. Now on this one, what we're going to do, because it doesn't need a great deal, we're going to put a thicker gasket in there and leave it at that. That'd be fine. But this is what we always want to check, is to make sure that it's not coming too high, the piston, and then you have the worry of a contact with a valve, also too much compression. And people will say, well, if you bring the barrel up, you're going to have to extend the push rods, which we do. We take the push rod apart and we can put some spacers inside underneath the cup. But so that's the first thing I'm doing now, is just making sure we've got the right sort of compression for the guy. Then we've put the barrel on properly. Then we've got the head to do. So yeah, it's all been repaired because this one was cracked. In the video, it had a very big crack and you can't really see now where it was, but all this valve seat was taken out and it's all rebuilt up underneath here and then remachined. So it's all been done. There's a lot of work here being done, a new stud put in as well. So the head has been done. The rockers are here to go back in. This is a new timing side case because the other one was a modified case to look like a Gold Star one. So we've managed now to have a new one made. So that's the correct one for it. And that's through fill. So I'm very lucky there. The actual rolling chassis now is ready for the motor now. Gearbox is in, wiring loom's in, everything's connected up, the wiring's all done. So yeah, it's a big job, but at least he's going to get it back and it's going to be as it should be. He's going to run this on a small concentric carb, so it will tick over. As we said before, not think to let it run for too long at low speed because they want to run the engines because of being dry sump. So hope to have this one finished next week. So that will be reunited with the customer. So yeah, that's that one. The project bike really got to a stage where hopefully Armours can help me out now with the exhaust. They've been making one. If it's been put into chrome, we can have that back here. As I said, it's going to come out on this side. Then we can work out where we're going to put our brackets. So the mudguard's in now. We've got the right brackets on the mudguard. I've shortened the stays down because I had these arrowheads and I thought, well, that's flash ones, but we can cut these down and they will work. We know we're going to put the rear light. The top yoke, we're going to have this with some of the RGS stuff, the Eddie Dale bits that we had with the bike. We've got the clocks refurbished already, so we're going to run it on the angled brackets, not those flat ones. And yeah, we've got a Gold Star tank. So I think it'd be quite nice with the big tank. So that would be a feature of the bike. And we'll probably have the mudguards painted too because the chrome isn't fantastic, although it's old stock. You've seen it before. Underneath here we've got the forks built up, road holder forks. So yeah, I want to, hopefully you'll see that in paint the next time. Okay, we've got 4 bikes turned up today. Well, not all new bikes. In fact, we've got 2 new bikes and 2 older bikes from Suzuki today, and thank you, Suzuki. We're going to play this one here. Now, Alex and Jason, they're going to ride the Suzuki 800 and this lovely 800S. Now, I didn't know that Suzuki built in the day an 800cc single. So quite a machine, I would imagine. It sounds lovely. There's a bit of a story to that one. We might tell you about that later on. But two very nice bikes, and we might as well go to this. This is the new Katana. Now, my cousin had the original Katana many years ago. Not quite my style of bike, but when you sit on this, it's very, very comfortable. And they said, have it, try it and enjoy it, see how you get on with it. So it's a new bike for me to experience a bit later on. But the one bike here that I like straight away is the TL1000. Now the TL1000 was a V-twin 1000cc bike, very quick. It had a few issues at the beginning and it was sorted out. It was powerful. I never had this model. I had the Honda Firestorm. My cousin had one of these, but what a lovely machine, you know, 1000 V-twin. It was never a production bike. What I mean, it never rolled off a production line. This bike was built out of spare parts, vintage parts. The parts were collected and the bike was built at a motorcycle show. Some of the parts they couldn't actually find, they had to search on eBay for, but the whole bike was put together by parts, spare parts. Quite amazing. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to riding that, I must admit. So yeah, it's the bike I never had, and I went for the Firestorm, so now I've got a chance to try the Suzuki version 1000, so that'd be good. But yeah, very lucky here with Suzuki, and thank you for, you know, again for supplying us with these bikes to enjoy and have a feel of the older classic and the more modern bikes now, which now are available out there. So yeah, hopefully we have some good riding and some fine weather as well. So here we got the BSA 500 Blue Star 1935. Pretty bike. It had been restored by Tony's guys in his workshop. High level split exhaust. So we got two exhausts coming out of the head, single cylinder engine. Quite a nice bike. It came to me, and the first thing we had to do, we had to take the tank off, take the panel out the tank, because you've got here pressure gauge, ammeter and light switch. This isn't actually used, this is just a switch, it's not connected behind. The tank had to be lined because it had pet seal in it before, and that had reacted with the fuel, it was starting to come away. So that's been lined with a product called Tapox, who I got from Villiers Services. Really good product, really happy with that. The battery, we got a full-size 6-volt battery, which is the correct size for this bike. It had a dummy box before with a dry cell battery, so that's got a substantial battery in there now. We had to sort out the clutch because the casing was moving when you pulled the clutch in. We had to take the carb off and just do some of the wiring. And the girder forks needed adjusting, and that was it really. We've checked the output, run it all up, and it runs really well. And I'll start it now for you.
You need something though, don't you, Dave?
Yes, oh yeah, most important thing, because this bike was auctioned off, and I think the buyer wasn't aware that two very important components are missing. And round this side, we're missing the speedo cable. Speedo's here, and it's obviously got no mileage on here at all. And the actual drive that goes into the front wheel. So in here will be a 90-degree drive assembly, a bevel drive. It will go in there, it goes against there's a main gear in here you engage with. Then there'll be a drive port here for the actual speedo cable. But it's clamped in place. I haven't got one to show you, but it would stick out and it would be like that sort of thing. And then you have the cable in the top. That is missing. So anyone that has got one of these, because this model, I think a lot of the parts were used from the late 20s right through into the 30s. There was a side valve BSA 500, exactly the same. So we're looking for what would be suitable to go in here for this customer's bike, because it's a shame it's missing these two components. So yeah, everything else is done on it. So we'll fire it up for you. It shouldn't need any choke. I'm just going to tickle it a little bit. So choke's off. It likes full advanced. So just free the clutch up, get compression. Just take it over the top. Starts really well. So you can see here on the panel we've got oil pressure. Now this gauge will go up quite high. We can regulate this, but because the oil is cold at the moment, the pressure will be higher. But running working pressure wants to be 8 psi. When that's warm, we adjust it from the front here. I'll get Alex to show the oil pump. Down here we can regulate the flow of oil and also the pressure. By turning it this way, it drops the pressure down. It's something you'll gauge it when the engine is warm. Here we've got the ammeter, the light switch. If you look now, the pressure's now dropping down now. But working pressure wants to be at 8 psi. See the ammeter working? Here's your light switch, side light, main light. You have your dip up here. And this side we've got the horn. It's a lovely bike. Yeah, I've not seen this model before. I quite like the oily red sort of finished bikes, but this is okay. And mechanically, it's all been done, and I think the customer's got a nice little bike there to ride. A typical 1930s bike, rigid back end, you know, pillion pad here, sprung saddle. These were quite nice bikes to ride because they weren't as heavy as a swinging arm bike frame that came later. You can retard it down a little bit as well now.